I would like to read two passages from the Christian scriptures. The first is from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 2. And the second is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 35 and 36. Do not neglect hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it. And Jesus said, I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. I want to talk on the theme of Celtic spirituality, of hospitality being indeed a sacred act, something which we almost instinctively on this island know so much about and are so well lauded throughout the world for being great practitioners of the spiritual act of hospitality. And so I'd like to take a leaf out of Alan Kirk's page. I followed his lead in framing all of my collective prayers, my readings, and my sermon in this theme of Celtic hospitality as a sacred act and indeed a sacred duty. A way to say namaste, namely, the divine in me recognizes and receives the divine in you and bids you welcome into my sacred space. Every people and culture, it seems, is known for some outstanding general characteristic. The French are known for their cuisine and their romance, the Germans for their precision engineering and their good order and painstaking organization. The Spaniards and Italians are lauded for their passion in music, dance, art, and architecture. The Persians for their great science and wisdom, knowledge, and their future and foreseeing. We Irish are regaled by many for our scholarship and our holiness in what was once called the land of saints and scholars. We are celebrated throughout the world for our joviality in entertainment and our indomitable spirit, and for being among the friendliest and most welcoming of people in the world. It is on the latter that I would like to speak about this morning. From the richest to the poorest of us, in every home here, there's always a kettle ready to put on as we welcome a visitor with tea or coffee, and there might even be something a little stronger if the occasion calls for it, and if it is not considered the devil's buttermilk. As the song says, whoever you are, you're one of us. Come into the parlor. There's always a welcome there for you. Now, many of us who grew up in working class areas of Belfast and its surrounding areas will recall the unexpected visit of a priest or a minister on a day when the bread bin or the biscuit tin was empty. The mother would send the older kids scurrying up and down the entry, asking the neighbors for the loan of a few biscuits or a few slices of Vita bread. Within mere minutes, the biscuit plate would be invariably overflowing, for no neighbor would let another feel the shame of not having anything but the best to offer an important guest. Such is the importance of hospitality to the people of this island. But have you ever asked yourself why it is that we are so deeply imbued with such generosity and kindness? Where does it come from? And why do we feel the need to welcome guests in this effusive way? I offer a cultural, spiritual, and biblical explanation of why the Irish not only say welcome, but Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes, or the echo of that phrase in contemporary Hiberno English when we say, you're very, very welcome indeed. Once upon a time, a seminary classmate of mine wanted to visit Ireland after graduation, He was African American and a bit uncertain about the way he might be treated. The year was 1984, and although Ireland had not yet seen the wave of new arrivals as we see today, I assured him that he would be made most welcome by my family and by my neighbors in the markets area where we had moved to. I had read about another African American visitor to Belfast, a man by the name of Frederick Douglass, who said as he was leaving this city, "Wherever else I feel myself to be a stranger, I will always know I have a home in Belfast. Wherever else I find myself to be a stranger, I will always know I have a home in Belfast." Those words and that sentiment swell and burst my heart with pride and with joy, for they came from a deeply spiritual man who had known in his own life the soul-killing hatred for the color of his skin in an America that made him most unwelcome in his own land. Here, in the streets that you and I walk on today, where we see now such rich culture and diversity of men and women, children of every land and nation, of every color and race, and who embrace every manner of thought and belief, he found kindred spirits among our predecessors who saw only the content of his character and the depth of his soul. We stand tall and proud upon their shoulders. So when my classmate returned to the States, I asked him how things went with my family. And he remarked that above all, the kindness and generosity of my family and neighbors, how he felt when my mother hugged and kissed him at his departure and told him that he would always be welcomed home. And it was the word home that resonated in his heart. He later told me he was so deeply affected by my mother's sincerity that he confided that he felt at that moment the very presence of God in one soul creating a home space for another soul in a way that inspired him to want to make Irish hospitality a core value in his future ministry as a priest. Let that sink in for just a moment. So where does this kind of hospitality come from? And how can it connect seemingly different people from such distant places and cultures with soul-reaching depth? Well, I offer that the Irish way of doing welcome has roots that stretch back to pre-Christian Celtic culture, where hospitality was a foundational principle in everyday society. Principles that were so essential to their identity that they were even codified and enforced under the Brehon laws. The Brehons, you may remember, were a class of wise and learned men and women who served the community by adjudicating matters of rights in commerce, family, and inheritance, and much more beyond. They were called upon to settle disputes in general and to keep order in the communities they served. The Brehons did not make the laws, rather they codified traditions and time-honored ways of settling disputes that came directly from the people in service to the people. As such, they were held in the highest of esteem. For the ancient Celts to the medieval Christian Celts and beyond the Norman conquest and into modern times, hospitality is for us as a people a sacred act, a sacred duty, and one that is essential to the spiritual life of all the people that call this place home. And when I say all the people, I mean our new arrivals, Reza, Pejman, Mohammed, and all who come here, Amir, and all who have come from faraway places, from Bulgaria, and I don't remember your name, you'll forgive me, but from faraway places, but who are here as the new Irish, bringing the richness of their traditions to blend with ours to make in our great diversity a greater strength for our hospitality and our well-being. In both our culture and our spirituality, giving food and shelter to others is indeed a great honor. To feed another is to have love for them. To take care of their needs and provide comfort and shelter is to be like God. As we try to become more like Christ, it is essential that we are ever more generous. God makes the sun shine on the wicked and the righteous, and sends rain to the fields of all without asking whether they deserve it. Perhaps you are aware of this little factoid. I don't know if you are or not, but the people of Northern Ireland in particular are per capita the most generous of all peoples in the world. Did you know that? We give in charity as a people of Northern Ireland more than anyone else on the planet. Let that sink in for a while, and let us ponder for a moment, where does that come from? What deep wellspring does our generosity flow from? I witnessed this spiritual act the other day on Castle Street, where I saw a woman bend down low to a man lying in a filthy sleeping bag. He was clearly drunk and out of sorts. She clasped the man's hand, squeezing into it what looked to me like a 20-pound note. And instead of moralizing, she empathized with the man's need for a cigarette. And I heard her say, in the most beautiful, broad Belfast accent, "Buy yourself a wee packet of fags, love. Take good care of yourself, and God bless." Perhaps the woman remembered the words of St. Teresa of Calcutta when she described the poorest of the poor as Christ in awful disguise. Or perhaps she just knew what it felt like to be broke and broken, wanting only the comfort of a wee smoke. Whatever the motive, her generosity and her kindness were clearly a spiritual act. We should all be like that woman. Jesus said that what we do for others is what we do for him. When we feed others, or visit them in prison, or give them shelter from the cold, we are doing something very, very sacred. In both Christian, pre-Christian Celtic culture and in the Bible, hospitality is essential. It is beneficial for the person receiving the food and shelter, of course, but it is also very beneficial to the person providing the hospitality. Jesus said that it is more blessed to give than to receive, and this, my friend, is no small claim. The benefit to the soul of one who is generous and provides hospitality as something natural and not needing discussion or prompting is profound indeed. When we change our perspective from seeking some kind of reward or redemption for our acts of kindness and hospitality, and do good for the reward of doing good in itself, then we change something essential about who we are. We become the good that we do. We become the prayer that we pray. We become the divine that we seek. The early church fathers recognized this as well. This is a quote from Basil of Caesarea, who lived from 330 to 370 in the Common Era. He said, "The bread in your cupboard belongs to the hungry. The coat in your closet belongs to the one who needs it. The shoes rotting in your closet belong to the one who has no shoes. The money which you put into the bank belongs to the poor. You do wrong to everyone you could help, but fail to help." For me, these words highlight the importance of hospitality. It is our task to ensure that we are not greedy, that we are in fact not like those who take and take but who give. We must learn to provide for every other creature as God has provided for us. As humans, we're able to bring hospitality to another level beyond what the other creatures do. The deer provides for the wolf, though not willingly. The blueberry bush provides for the bears without intending to. But we, being gifted with free will and reason, are able to provide hospitality not only for other humans, which is essential, but indeed for all of creation, beyond what nature makes us give. Once we learn to show hospitality to the fish of the sea, the ants of the earth, the sparrows in the sky, we will have corrected what is broken in the human condition. Our sense of separation from creation makes us selfish, and we deny God the hospitality we are required to give by natural law. As Paul says in the Colossians, his letter to the Colossians, the Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. My sisters and my brothers, we are part of God's creation, and as such, we are created by God and for God along with all the plants and the animals. Along with our sisters and brothers, we are held together by our union with the divine. Therefore, to show hospitality to any creature is to honor God. To welcome an immigrant, a refugee, or asylum seeker, as much as the wee bird in the tree, is to be part of creation the way God intended it. So be hospitable, dear friends. Show love and compassion for every person you meet. Never let someone come to your home without a meal being offered. Offer your house and even your bed or your clothes to anyone who comes to your door. Bring comfort to the afflicted, shelter to the lost, drink to the thirsty, and warmth to those who are cold. Treat every creature you meet as if they were an angel of heaven, or even Christ himself, and you will come that much closer to being holy as God is holy. Amen.